So it's iOS 27, it's macOS Golden Gate, and it's Siri AI. AppleInsider Podcast after WWDC. Welcome to it. I'm William Gallagher with Wesley Hilliard, and I think actually, Wes, are we both a little bit dazed from the barrage of things we've just seen?
We're going to have a lot to talk about on the main show. Obviously, this is a quick summary, if we can even call it a summary, because I'm not even sure what we just watched. It was very fast, very busy. Just to catch everyone up, normally, if this is your first WWDC, this is not how it goes. Normally, Apple walks out on stage. They might have some pre-announcement about privacy or some new OS feature or design like Liquid Glass. And then they'll go iOS, macOS, visionOS, watchOS, tvOS, one after the other. AirPods features, HomePods. They didn't even mention the word AirPods. Well, no, actually, we'll get to that in a second. I think they did. I just was writing at the time. So today, they did not do that. They walked out on stage, confused everyone with some banter about Apple Intelligence, mentioned macOS Golden Gate for a quarter of a second, and then we were like, oh, cool, macOS is first. No, they just dived into, here's all the changes coming to Liquid Glass. Here's all the changes coming to Apple Intelligence. So, and then that was the end of the show. No individual keynote items.
It was definitely the standard intro to macOS, complete with the marketing stuff, and I know it's the same every time, but it was funny for it. They kept, it was almost like they were apologetic, it seemed to me. We're talking about the Mac, but we'll just talk about this bit first, and then this bit, and then we'll come back and we'll throw in something here about the sidebar. I don't think that's going to be a headline news anywhere, but, you know, welcome. And rounded corners are a bit more consistent. I'd forgotten that that's been a criticism of macOS Tahoe, so that's nice.
You haven't been on Mastodon enough, because every other screenshot was someone saying macOS is so bad, they got the corners wrong. And, like, so that was directed at those people, for sure.
Yeah, I can kind of see it, though. Now, can't unsee it once it's been pointed out, but now I don't have to see it again. So, yeah, I'll go to Mastodon for some other things. Speaking of other things, the moment we finish speaking, I will be downloading the developer beta of macOS Golden Gate. I nearly said Big Bear then. I'm so relieved it isn't Big Bear. It is available for developers. Nobody in their right minds should download it yet because Apple is not paying you to break your machine. But I am tasked with writing a full review of it. It doesn't sound like it's going to take very long this time, but, you know, I'm in for it. But because the big thing is Siri AI. Yeah.
So this is what's funny about this one. And I actually want to talk a little bit about Google's keynote as well here, because I think it's important. There was actually a lot of individual features. When Apple showed us the text screen that they sometimes show us of all the upcoming features, there was stuff in there that was never mentioned in the keynote. There's pile upon pile of new feature, new API, new design standpoint, new app function, all through this keynote coming to all the operating systems. So, William, I honestly think you have your work cut out for you. Now, what's weird is we didn't get an OS summary page either. Now, Apple does do these big preview pages. We haven't seen them yet as we record, but there will be a preview page of macOS Golden Gate with every feature that is expected for it. And then after that comes out, Apple also releases a giant PDF that is pages upon pages of every single line item change. So I expect there's going to be more than what we saw in this keynote. And funny enough, Apple took a very different stance in this WWDC, and I wonder if it's because of industry pressure.
I think, sorry, this is a roller coaster. I was bored with no Mac stuff. Now I'm thinking there's a lot of Mac stuff. Now I've got to, yeah, okay. I just want more Mac stuff. I may have mentioned before, I'm into Macs more than anything else. I don't normally see Apple bowing to industry pressure, but it seemed to with the first time round with Apple Intelligence. So this one does. I was surprised there was even a little side mention of Gemini in there, very low down in the mix. Let's just touch on that.
No, it was actually the most information we've got so far, and actually confirmation that everything I've been saying about this is accurate. All right, because it wasn't some white label thing. It wasn't Gemini's going to sneak in and replace Apple Intelligence or whatever.
Yeah.
Apple said what I've been saying this whole time, which is what they've been telling us in much less words. This was the most detail we got. But it is confirmed now, unless someone's lying and there's a lawsuit later, which I doubt. This is Apple Foundation models with Apple systems trained by Google Gemini. Gemini's technologies, so their core components, which Apple actually used in the original training set of
Right.
Apple Intelligence, they used Tensor chips to program Apple Intelligence originally. So this isn't really that new. It's just more of it. So Tensor processors, more Gemini as far as distilling information into Apple models. But the result is, as I have always said, now bear with me, Apple Foundation models that have been improved through training from Gemini models
Yeah.
that run on device and in private cloud compute privately, securely, all Apple systems. This is nothing, none of your information ever touches a Google anything, period. Other than maybe a rented server, but even in its private cloud compute, it's in Apple's name. This is not a Gemini product. And then they proceeded to tell us line by line dozens of features, user facing, operating system, device named, how you're going to use it. A very user focused keynote. And I want to put this in direct contrast to Gemini's or Google's keynote, where it was not even developer focused, it was AI user focused. They never mentioned a product really. They didn't really talk about Android at all. It was just about how good their models are and what could possibly be done. Apple's keynote was user centric. It still mentioned all of the operating systems, showed the devices operating these products as user focused features. So what was your takeaway from this? Did you pick up the same thing, or were you a little exhausted by all the AI talk?
Well, funny enough, now you said it, AI was everything, but I wasn't as bothered because they didn't keep saying AI, yeah, all of that stuff. They did what I expected. They did what Apple always does. They think about us rather than Google thinks about itself. And, why wouldn't you? You're a big company. Do what you like. But yeah, the user-focused thing. There did seem to be so many user-focused features. I'm a little unclear about when they're coming, because some of them are later this year. Some of them are not coming to all devices. I was more surprised at that than I realised I was going to be. I mean, we have the whole main show to examine things, and by then we will have really dug deep and we'll be using at least some of these. But what were the kind of user features that leapt out at you? What do you expect you will actually use?
To be clear, I believe most of this is going to launch in beta because a lot of this is contextual protocol. This is app intents, as we've discussed. This is on-device learning. This is new information indexing. This is new tools, but they're all tied to system-level features. So they should be there in beta 1. A lot of the more advanced stuff, perhaps some of the image formatting stuff might come later. And Apple did mention tokens. We're not going to be able to just generate 1,000 images for free. If you pay for iCloud Plus or Apple One or whatever, you'll likely have more options, but you'll eventually hit a limit and may have to pay for more or just wait another day to do more image generation or whatever it is you're doing. I want to point out a few things. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to that point about tokens, because this is something that actually disappointed me. Apple is selling us on what we'll use them for, and that's what I want them to do, and they do it very well. But occasionally they stop short of a little important detail, and one of them is that thing about daily usage limits. You will get greater limits if you are on some iCloud Plus plans, but some does not mean all, and they do not say, even in the footnotes about it, the press release.
That's nitty gritty. They don't need to get into that in an hour keynote. There's just not enough
No, but
time.
they also don't get it into it in the PR, where actually they don't mention device limits at all. They actually say, I mean, unless they change this, that Apple Intelligence is limited. Basically, they describe the same list as last time, but in the keynote, they said some of them will need.
There's so much going on here, and we're not going to have time to get into all of it. But basically, the most powerful devices, the iPhone 17 Pro, the M4 and M5 series devices, so Apple Vision Pro, iPad Pro, various Macs, those devices are going to have the most powerful on-device models. Every device that can run Apple Intelligence will have all of the models, just less powerful ones on less capable devices. Basically, when they're downloading the models, they'll send a ping saying, hey, this is my device configuration. Give me the model that's compatible with my unit. And those with weaker models will more likely ping private cloud compute than the more powerful on-device models, which is going to be a big selling point for the iPhone 18 Pro line, which means if you want the best on-device AI processing, you get the best iPhone, which has always been the case. But now Apple's delineating it further, basically saying you get the most when you pay the most. Now, that isn't to say some features will be limited. Apple didn't go up and say image reframing is only for iPhone 18 Pro or iPhone 17 Pro. That's not what they're doing here. Some of this stuff is private cloud compute only, and I'm sure we'll learn more about this as we get it. But I think the key detail here is whatever AI system you're using, you're always using Apple Foundation models until you choose not to. And if you're whenever you're using Apple Foundation models, it is all private, whether it's on device or private cloud compute. It seems like Apple really wanted to hammer that home. Now, they nailed a few things down here. 1,000 App Store submissions per hour is what they're dealing with right now, which is maddening.
Yes.
The first thing the keynote got into was platform improvements. So Liquid Glass now has a slider from less opaque to more opaque to basically turning it off, I suppose. We'll find out what that looks like in the beta. I'm sure that'll also get tweaked throughout the summer. They also announced, so platform improvement. They also announced trust and safety was a big pivoting point. So they actually spent a lot of time, which is important in this regulatory environment in Australia, Texas, around the globe, children's safety and screen time, which I'm very interested in seeing how that's all implemented. That sounds very interesting and useful. The operating systems across the board saw design changes with Liquid Glass to be more appealing, faster, more optimized. File transfers on iPad are 8 times faster or 5 times faster. Just stuff like that across the board. So this is where that Mark Gurman Snow Leopard thing came from, because they did spend a lot of time on optimization, faster loading, faster airdrops, faster HomeKit connections. So many things that weren't even mentioned in the keynote that were just footnotes in the slides.
I've got to say, though, faster airdrop is nice, but I've never had a problem with the speed of airdrop. I have a problem with it just sometimes deciding, nah, I'm not going to work and things. So that's what I'll be looking for on this. But you talked about time spent. One unusual thing is that although they didn't name rivals, they did. Craig Federighi spent some time criticizing all other AI companies, which is a little odd for Apple, but I can't say he was wrong.
He was correct. Even Google, this is where it gets frustrating, because I already know we're going to get an email. The other systems, including Google with their private servers, still collect more data than you would want from an AI interaction. Sure. They may not be training their models anymore on individual inputs, but they're still gathering user profiles. And some of this stuff can be end up in advertising profiles as well. Now, that's not always the case. There's a lot of exceptions, I know. But when it comes to Apple, the answer is just no. There's no gray area. There's no figuring it out. There's no reading a long EULA and agreeing to it. It's just they don't want your data. They don't use your data. You can safely use image playgrounds to generate an image, which we'll get to it in the main show, realistic looking images now, which I don't know how to feel. I wonder what the limitations are on that. I wonder what that looks like. But even so, because your Apple Intelligence, the foundation models have access to your photo library, it will now suggest generated images and make them for you ahead of time and just show them to you in a library view, which is using processing like tokens that you don't need to spend. This is all happening in the background. You don't have to worry about it, but you also don't have to worry about it for privacy reasons. They're not sucking up your photos to train a model or whatever.
No.
And I actually trust that from Apple. I do not trust that from Google. So,
any big surprises for you in this WWDC, apart from the strange formatting of it?
Nothing. A lot of it was rumored. I think a lot of the rumors were incorrect in some of their implementation. I think the spatial reframing is the most interesting and biggest departure for Apple. So I want to get into that here since we have a couple more minutes. It's the spatial photos feature where you can convert any photo into a spatial scene. But now that scene is getting image generative fill added to it. Instead of it being a blurry mess behind a figure, it's now intelligently filling that in. And you can now rotate these subjects separate from the background and reposition how the photo is framed without altering the context.
Yeah,
That
I
is
just do not know what I
important.
think about it. Incredible, but will
If
I
it
use
works.
it? Will you use it?
If it works.
True.
Now,
That's
will
a
I
very
use it?
good
I don't
point.
know. This is actually important in my photo library. Not so much. Like, I don't want to change something like that. Like, just maybe some people are that persnickety. They're like, I really wish it was framed this way. They're going to use it. For me, I would just take a different photo. If I didn't like the framing, I would just fix it on the spot. I wouldn't wait till later to find out it was bad. These are, giving us instant results. We don't have to go back and find out later on the film that it was poor. But what I can see using it for is where it's appearing all over the system, generating wallpapers, backgrounds for messages, contact posters. Maybe I want it to be a very specific format for a contact poster and they're just not facing the right direction or the background's too distracting. Like, that's where this is going to come in handy, is these AI features can be used as toys to play with in your system. And I think that is the right way to approach AI. That is my biggest surprise, honestly. I didn't know what to expect from this keynote. I had no idea other than we're getting new models that are better. How is Apple going to approach that? And they nailed it, I think. Again, this is initial reactions. We'll have more time to discuss later and feel it out. But from what I can tell, private, secure, on-device when needed, private cloud compute when not, safe, and useful. Like, the writing stuff is going to be great. It's just proactively helping you correct your grammar. I don't need it to write for me. And they didn't even get into that. I don't even know, did they mention like writing an email for you in this
Yes,
keynote?
they did. If you
Okay.
usually write to your manager in short bullet points, it'll just do that for you and things like that, which is of zero interest to me at all. But I do know
Sure.
somebody whose
No.
English isn't their first language, and so they keep falling back on ChatGPT to rewrite things, and I think it makes her emails a bit dull, really. Don't tell her. No, I told her you said it. Tell her. Hopefully this will be a better way, but yeah, we're writers, so we wouldn't do it. Yeah.
One of the coolest moments, so first off, Vision OS 27 has some huge improvements I'm very excited for. One of them is they blew past it, but you can generate your own 3D panoramas now using your own images or images you get from the internet, and make it your environment. So you're no longer limited by Apple's pre-configured environment library.
I missed that. I could be surrounded by the wacky races kind of thing.
You could.
They'll let you do that, but they won't let you change watch faces still.
See, WatchOS was so barely mentioned in this keynote. The other thing that was really cool was natural language processing, natural calendar entries, reminders, natural processing for shortcuts, generating shortcuts just through speech or text. But the biggest cool thing that they didn't need to do that was clearly AI before the AI segment, they upgraded Apple Maps satellite view to look good.
It's gorgeous
with reflections and details. I just thought that was a neat way to use the technology.
Good. All of it is a neat way of using the technology, and I think that's the point, is it? They're not technology first. They're what in the world will you use it for first? And I think that's what we've always said. One thing I do want to say before, we have to mention to come all the details in there, but one thing, you were quite right. You said that you had you had reported correctly what Apple was doing with Apple Intelligence and Gemini and the rest. But that's you saying it. I want to point out, yes, you were always right for it. And now it's, in retrospect, I think it will be seen to be obvious, but you saw it from the start. So, yay you. I didn't see it.
Painted as this failure. Yeah. Apple doesn't know what it's doing. It's scrambling. It's failing. It's behind. It's never going to catch up. And what Apple just announced, I'm going to do some research, but from my first impressions, Apple's doing more with AI on its iPhones, iPads, Macs, all of its devices across the ecosystem than even Google. And Google has an ecosystem called Android.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Apple is doing more with AI than Google is. That
It's
is
fascinating. Yes.
wild that it
Okay.
took one step out the door, and that's all it took was them actually announcing things, which is what we've been talking about this whole time. But we do need to close up. So I'll ask you, how do you feel coming out of this keynote? I know you're not going to use all these features. Some of them might interest you, but do you think this was a good WWDC or a poor one?
Oh, okay. As a show, I thought it was a bit more tricksy than before. They'd gone onto the same jump cut thing, which is fine, but any gimmick can be overused and think it was. I thought the in and the out was done nicely. Tim Cook's farewell was nice and understated. They got on with things. It was a new format. As a Mac fan, I was let down at first, but slowly came round. I think on balance, it was good. I think what I'm left with is all these integrated Siri features of it using multiple apps to find things. I'm wondering how long it will take me to find that normal. How long I'll have to think ahead. What will I need it to do things? But that's the kind of thing that
point.
I will
It'll
use.
do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, it's supposed to proactively suggest things like, hey, this email has a phone number. Maybe you should make a call. Like, I think that's what's important about this keynote. And my closing statement here will be just to say, even with all of these announcements and all these tools, you can still just ignore it. Apple didn't make it a requirement to use its AI. It didn't beg us to use it. It didn't make it a part of the OS in a way that is intrusive and convoluted. It's just there if you want it. It'll bump up and say, hey, I'm here. Click me if you need to do this. But you can go into settings and turn it off.
Just
if you really don't want to see
swipe.
Yeah. Or you can dismiss it with a swipe.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really important here. Not only is it human-centric and interesting in the way that they're actually coming up with features instead of just token maxing or whatever the heck they said during Google's keynote. It's human-facing features, private and secure, on-device first, and just very thoughtful. I just thought it was a good keynote and a good way to present this new system. And I can't wait to see everyone's reactions, honestly.
Well, if that's your closing remark, I will say mine is it's time for all the rumours about WWDC 2027. Can't start too soon. But on Friday, we will examine all this and we'll have more information as well. That's the most useful thing. So thank you very much for watching this. Thank you for watching and listening. And we'll be back with much more, so much more, very soon.
Yeah. A final good morning to Tim Cook as well.
Oh, yes.
Talk soon.